piece that or the claim that I'm refuting is that many internet service providers are trying to control the internet by overturning net neutrality rules set by the FCC. So my claim is that internet service providers need to overturn net neutrality rules set by the FCC to protect themselves. To start off, my opponent's first claim is that some ISPs, that'll be my shortness for internet service providers, some ISPs want to manage how you use the internet and charge you by your usage. And I mean, internets have been doing that for years. That's what they do when they say bundle or charge you by your package. That's charging you by your usage. So that's nothing new. And the consumers, they're being charged more by the data they use because of the sites that they use. Like Google and Bing, they're charged by places like Comcast and Verizon for the bandwidth that they have. So, I mean, you're getting charged somewhere down the line. It's just now there's a middleman. And also, the ISPs, they're ultimately just trying to maximize their profit, their businesses. And they're breaking the internet down, or what they're trying to do is break it down into two tiers. One, which is a more fast pace, which costs more, but it's only for fixed lines, like the ones that you'll use more at home. And the second one is a slower pace and it costs less, but it's for mobile lines or wireless internet connections. The second claim that she made was that ISPs are trying to monopolize, which she forgot to mention that even it's basically impossible for them to try to do that, because even without the net neutrality laws, they still can't block certain sites. Like the mobile networks, they have more leniency, so they can block advertisements that they don't want to show, but what they can't do is block competitors. So you're still going to have your options. There's not just one choice and you can't do anything else. And also most ISPs have policy procedures that are made public, so you choose what you're agreeing to or disagreeing to before you sign up. It's all your choice. The third claim was that they want to regulate what the customers can view. And that did not have any factual basis behind it. The research was used off of Free Press, which is like a Wikipedia type site. And really they're just trying to express their own rights. ISPs are always getting, when it comes to dealing with the FCC, they're always getting like the short end of the stick. They've tried to compromise, and they're always getting less of the deal. They just want their rights to stop being infringed upon without due process, which, tackling on my opponent's, when they mentioned about Comcast and Verizon trying to sue the FCC, they won in an appeals court because even the government agrees that FCC with these net neutrality laws are wrong, and the ISPs are only trying to protect themselves, and they're looking at it from an economic standpoint rather than policy. So, thank you.
Okay, you ID the claim pretty clearly. The problem is that you then immediately accept the claim. If that is in fact the issue that's in dispute, you've basically said, I agree, and you accept their premise, so there's no argument anymore, and your position doesn't have any standing to it. It really seems like the argument isn't about whether or not they're trying to do this, it's about whether or not there's a need to do this, and I think that that's how you want to couch the argument. On your first point, you make an argument that says basically that this is about being able to manage profits and cover their costs, and there's no evidence on that. You make a claim that says that they're trying to advance a two-tier system. I don't doubt that what you're saying is true, but again, there's no evidence on anything on the first point that you're arguing about there. There's a very clear signpost on the second point. You've got a counterclaim on the inability to block these sites. I didn't hear any evidence on this part. That's an assertion on your part. There's a discussion that this information is available on the ISP's public policies, and so that people, in choosing whether or not to use that as an ISP, they would be aware of it. I think that's a reasonable argument to make. Again, I think that you ought to be citing the evidence on that, although I think probably most people understand that because they've had to click on accept or agree when they have downloaded some program, so they probably know that that's a truism. Still, it wouldn't hurt, for instance, to have somebody advancing this particular argument say that sort of thing. On the third point, your criticism of their evidence is a little bit thin. Basically, it comes down to, well, it's from a open source site, and, well, does that mean that there's something wrong with it automatically? And by the way, you ought to point out that it's mostly an opinion on this particular situation, and if it's not from an expert, I don't know what kind of validity it has. I think you make an argument about the rights being infringed, and I didn't think that that was a very clear argument. At the end of the argument, you're saying that the court ruling ought to be accepted, that it was a justified decision, but you don't do much to defend that decision. You just kind of make that assessment of it. All right, thank you.